He has a little hitch in his giddy up. That's important. That is important. I want you to pause on the hitch in the giddy up. He's got a little limp on his right leg. But Baron, we know he has a little limp on his right leg. Oh, do we? Do we know that? You know why I asked that question? Because I've got footage of him after this 807 with no hitch in his giddy up. He's not limping at all. And then I got footage of him later and he's limping again. You know the common thread? He only limps. This is 8:07 a.m. Tyler Robinson is spotted right here. Now this is next door to the house, which is right here where Phil Lyman will later be. So Phil Lyman will later be here. That's the famous image of Tyler Robinson limping down the road, or who is alleged to be Tyler Robinson limping down the road. At 8:07 a.m., he's right next door. Funny that. In fact, he's all over this neighborhood. Look at all these different sightings. We'll get to all those. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But here's where he is. And look how close he is to the campus. You see that? I mean, just right next to the campus. So this is the campus. Here's your menorah of sacrifice. Here's the Losi Center building up here. And way off here into the distance, just next door, the very house next to the campus, you have Tyler Robinson at 8:07 a.m. And I actually have that footage of Tyler Robinson at 8:07 a.m. Tyler Robinson allegedly walking down the road. So this is him allegedly walking at 8:07. Notice he has a little hitch in his giddy up. He has a little hitch in his giddy up. That's important. That is important. I want you to pause on the hitch in the giddy up. He's got a little limp on his right leg. But Baron, we know he has a little limp on his right leg. Oh, do we? Do we know that? You know why I asked that question? Because I've got footage of him after this 8:07 with no hitch in his giddy up. He's not limping at all. And then I got footage of him later and he's limping again. You know the common thread? He only limps in certain outfits and then he doesn't limp in others. Almost like there's more than one person. Almost like one of the people has a limp and one of them does not. But let me roll this again real quick. You see that little hitch in his giddy up? He's kind of dragging that right leg a little bit, like his hip flexor doesn't quite pull his knee up as he's walking. He's got his hands in his pockets there. That is right here. That is this driveway right here. This is the basketball goal you can see in this image. He's walking from somewhere north up here on this kind of main road down this little 2-lane kind of cracked road with, frankly, junk all over the yards. And he's heading towards the campus, allegedly. We don't know where he goes, but we know he's headed that way. So that is that footage right there. That's the first image we have of him, 8:07 a.m. When do we next see him? Strangely, we see him over here. 16 minutes later, driving in a car. See the problem we have here? Here he is at 8:07 all the way over here. He's at 8:07 walking, and then 16 minutes later, some reason, he's in a car driving in front of this house right here. And I have that one for you as well. All right, so this is from Project Constitution. Here is the footage. This is early in the morning, 8:23 a.m., 16 minutes later. So we saw him limping down the road at 8:07. And here he comes driving down the road around 8:22, 8:23, 15 or 16 minutes later, he goes driving by. Now, again, I want to go back and show you the problem here that I have. Why is he limping south on this road and then driving up this road 15 minutes later? Where was his car? You know, if he's walking south here, you assume his car's up here somewhere. If he's walking south here, you assume maybe he's going to campus or something. But this leads me to believe he walked down here, did whatever he was going to do, walked back up to wherever his car was, and then decided to drive through this neighborhood over here. Well, that's not something that makes sense to me, because this is 8:23. And again, all the way over here is 8:07. It's just a 15 or 16 minute difference. But when you think about where was his car, where was he walking from when he came here? How did he end up back in his car driving right here? So that is we're up to 8:22. By 8:29, if Governor Cox is to be believed, by 8:29, and I'll share Governor Cox with you here, he's actually somewhere else, believe it or not. He's all over the place. Here's Governor Cox telling you where Tyler Robinson is.
And identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th.
Walking towards campus at 8:07, driving away from campus at 8:23, arriving back on campus at 8:29. Again, could it be? Well, sure. And it's 4 hours before the event, so it's not like we're saying he was in Nevada at the time of the shot. That's not the case I'm building here. I'm not actually building any case. I'm just trying to figure out who the hell's driving around, who's walking, who are these people? Is it all Tyler Robinson? It's just a lot going on. And again, if he's arriving back on campus at 8:29, he's over here on this side here walking south at 8:07. 8:23, he's over here driving north on this road that we saw him drive by. And then according to Governor Cox, he's back driving onto campus at 8:29. So again, could one person do all those things? Sure. I guess the better question is, why would one person do all of those things? I don't really have an explanation for that part of it necessarily. I showed you him walking in black earlier. Now I'm going to show you him walking in maroon. This is actually the 807. Same driveway we saw at 807, but instead of him limping by in black, he's now going to be walking by in maroon. No limp, maroon shirt, light shoes, gray shorts, just casually strolling down the road. So we've gotten from 807, 823, 829, then he disappears for an hour and a half. Governor Cox tells us he arrives on campus at 8:29, but he never told us he left campus. Are we to believe he's just milling around on campus this whole time? Did his charger stay on campus? Did his charger ever leave campus? Well, I don't know. What we have is new footage of Tyler Robinson now walking down the road. We saw the footage from the Ring doorbell camera of Tyler Robinson driving down the road. We actually have that same Ring doorbell camera footage, but it's an hour and a half later. And I'll show you on the map where that is. And then I'll show you the video footage of him driving down the road. So here's your map. This was the area right here where we saw him drive by at 8:23 with the Dodge Challenger. Well, here at 9:57, we see him walking in maroon shirt and shorts. Keep in mind, he was walking in maroon shirt and shorts over here an hour and a half ago. And then an hour and 10 minutes ago, or an hour and a half ago, he's driving around over here, and now he's walking back by. I'll show you that footage. Now you'll get to see him walk past. There he is right there. You can barely make him out. The camera will switch in just a second. Give it just a moment to change scenes here. And there he goes walking by. So an hour and a half, this guy's just out strolling the neighborhood. Just strolling the neighborhood for an hour and a half. We cannot figure out why, what he's doing, where he's going. Now, again, this is walking back towards campus. So when this SUV rolls over to the right here, it rolls all the way to the right and slows down to a near stop while Tyler Robinson stops at 11:44 a.m. It has to then pull back out to the left to get back in the travel lane and continue traveling. That's an important development. The Fed Slop narrative is that they did this all alone. He's not alone at that point. Let me back out of there, back out of here, and go back to the next stop. Because the next time we see him is 5 minutes later. And I'll show you where that is. Next time we see him is 5 minutes later. He is walking down this same street again. We last saw him here at 11:44. He stops at this street corner, and SUV comes over and pulls over and then pulls back in the lane of traffic. He apparently then continues walking down this main drag, takes a left at this intersection right here, and then he starts walking south on this road here. This is the famous Phil Lyman house. This is the Phil Lyman house right here. This is where he was spotted at 11:49 a.m. walking down the street. He's actually on the left-hand side of the street as he walks south, and then he crosses the street right in front of this camera and begins walking down the right-hand side of the street. Now we're back to this one. This is 11:49 a.m. We last saw him 5 minutes ago around the corner, apparently stopping at the street corner while an SUV pulled up to him. I'll show you more about that SUV later. But here he is now limping pretty heavily as he crosses the street. This is the same street he walked down at 8:07. He's already walked down the street once today. If this is all Tyler Robinson, if it's not more than one person. But this is him walking down the street with an apparent limp. So again, all of this has taken place right in this neighborhood. We've been nowhere except this neighborhood. We saw him walking here. We saw him driving here, walking here. We see him walking here. We see him walking here. It's all taking place in this neighborhood right here. All of it. Now, we're going to go to the indictment. We're going to read something from the indictment because we see him at 11:49 on Ring doorbell camera footage. And we're going to see him in just a moment in the indictment. If I can get it pulled up. Here we go. We're going to see him right here in the indictment. The discovery led to an intensive review of UVU surveillance to attempt to identify and track the suspect. Surveillance revealed the following. At approximately 11:51, the suspect entered campus from the north. That's right after he had walked by the Phil Lyman house 2 minutes before. He's seen wearing a black shirt, American flag in its center, dark baseball cap, large sunglasses. That's what he was seen wearing when you saw him limping by the Phil Lyman house. Throughout the surveillance, the suspect keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across campus, he's seen walking with an unusual gait. That's that dragging his leg behind him a little bit. Suspect walks with very little bending in his right leg, consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. Well, we saw him bending that leg, but where they're talking about is right here. He's seen entering UVU's campus right here. Apparently, he crosses over. You see him walking in front of this house at 1149. He walks south. He crosses over this little ditch, and they see him enter campus right here. This little hole right here, this is the first image we see of him in the tunnel. And then he walks under this tunnel, and he comes out over here near the parking garage. And we'll get to that in just a moment. And we have him, I'll show you. This is the image we have of him. Investigators said he paused at the top of the stairs at 11:53 a.m. to pull out his phone before continuing into the tunnel. So that's the tunnel he came in on. These are the stairs where he walked up, but you'll see he's bending his left leg, and there's another shot on those stairs where he's actually bending his left leg, which is inconsistent with a rifle. These are skinny jeans. Where's the rifle? I don't see a rifle. There's a phone. There's no rifle. But again, I'm just trying to map out the timeline. I'm not necessarily proving his guilt or innocence here. But that is this stairwell at the parking garage right there. That's where that is. All right, 12:02. Here's where it's getting interesting. We're 20 minutes away from from Charlie Kirk being taken down. 21 minutes away. At 12:02 p.m., according to authorities, this is just 1 minute after he enters campus, Mr. Robinson was seen walking on the north side of the Losi Center. I'll show you that in just a moment. The building where they say he would later climb to shoot Mr. Kirk. According to the affidavit, he entered the building from the southeast side, then 13 minutes later walked up a set of stairs to a walkway abutting the Losi Center. So let me get to that so you can see where he goes from here. That is right here. These are the stairs they're talking about. He's seen entering from the north side of the Losi Center. This is the north side of the Losi Center here. They see him coming here at 12:02. He eventually takes these stairs. These are the stairs they're talking about. What was he doing for the 13 minutes from 12:02 when he's seen right here until 12:15 when he's seen ascending the stairs? We don't know, actually. We don't know. There's suspicion that he was assembling a rifle. Would it take 13 minutes? Maybe. But that's the 13 minutes you have right here between this area here where the yellow dot is on your screen right here until he ascends these stairs right here. There's a 13-minute gap, and we're not exactly sure why. What is he waiting on? Now, keep in mind, Charlie Kirk is talking during this 13 minutes. He's thrown out the hats. He's taken his seat. Henry Dells begins asking him questions about the LDS faith. He's doing his give and take. Hunter Kozak is waiting in the wings as the second person. He's the one that's going to ask the questions about trans violence. If you were suspicious, if you were a suspicious-minded person and you said, hey, well, they're going to wait on Hunter Kozak, and Hunter Kozak's not going, so if he arrives at 12:02, he would have to wait somewhere, not on the rooftop because he don't want to be seen. He don't want to be up there any longer than he has to be. But he'd have to wait somewhere, milling around until it's go time, until it's time to get up on the roof and take the shot. I mean, that's a very, I think, suspicious way to look at everything, but it's how I look at everything. Now, right here is a small gate. It's 3 feet tall. You can't see it on this map very well, but I promise you it exists. And I'll show you from the indictment again, where it talks about how he got over that railing. So here is from the indictment. Police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing. That's that 3-foot railing we were just talking about from the public walkway. That's that red, I don't know if it's brick or what it is, but it's that red walkway that comes out of the computer science building, but goes right out onto the roof of the Losi Center. And the roof of the Losi Center is only blocked off by that 3-foot railing. He goes out over the railing and drops onto the roof at approximately 12:15. So at 12:15, he's on the roof. He will not take a shot for 8 more minutes, but he's on the roof. I want to show you something. When I say he's on the roof, I mean he's on the roof. Now, you'll notice anybody who's on this roof right here would be able to look right across to this roof right here and see him. It's a straight, direct shot from one roof to the other. I note that because standing right here next to this potted plant was a police officer. Standing next to him was a Charlie Kirk security guy. And they're standing right there the entire time for 8 minutes while Tyler Robinson's milling around on this roof, doing whatever it is he's doing. But that was at 12:15 that he crosses this little pathway. So from 12:15 to 12:23, he's in this shooter zone here. He's in this shooter zone. Now, that is the perch right here, the corner of this building, not this little part that juts out, but this corner over here. In fact, that part that juts out right there, I don't think has a clean angle all the way to Charlie Kirk. But if you go from here and you look this way, this little part that juts out would be blocked by the Sorensen building. So you got to get all the way over here on the left, and you got to hope they've positioned Charlie far enough to the left in this menorah up here that you'll be able to get a clean look at him. That's a big hope if you don't know what's going on, because you just have a very little window to get around this little piece of the Sorensen Center right here. He has to be seated far enough to the left right here in order to get a shot at all on him from the top of this building. I've run that ruler every way you can run it. And if they would have moved Charlie Kirk like 2 feet to Charlie's left, to the shooter's right, he wouldn't have had an angle. He wouldn't have been able to see him. It was critical that Charlie be exactly where he was placed, or there would have been no clean angle at all from that position. Now, that's 12:23. He positions himself in here at some point before 12:23 and gets ready to take the shot, allegedly, if you're buying the Fed Slop narrative. 12:23 and 50 seconds, he jumps off this corner of the roof right here. 12:23 and 50 seconds, he jumps off this corner of the roof right here. We've all seen the video, but we'll watch it again anyway, because nobody believes that this video accurately portrays a Tyler Robinson jumping off the roof. First, you have to go, let's show a piece of, I think Candace was the one that first showed the highest quality of it. This is from inside the Hall of Flags. This is immediately after the bang. You see right there. That's the little jut right there we were just showing on the Losi Center. This is the alleged shooter running within 3 seconds of the big bang. Immediately picks up and starts running, and you see him go off there towards the side of the Losi Center. So if we go back to here, that's all taking place over here. He gets up from this prone position, within 3 seconds is at a full sprint heading this way, heading up towards the corner of the building over here. Within 18 seconds, he's able to get from here over to here and start climbing over the railing, or start climbing over the ledge to jump down. Now, I don't know. You tell me. Why wouldn't you just run back down the stairs? Like, if you're Tyler Robinson and you're not particularly athletic and you're not a professional hitman, why are you scaling buildings like Spider-Man? Why not just use the stairs? They're right there. They're literally right there. But for some reason, he chose to jump off a 15-foot roof. I will never understand. I'm not inside the mind of an alleged conspirator to assassination, but hey, maybe you guys are. I'm at this point, I'm at a total loss for words. Like, I would love to tell you, here's what I think happened. I don't know. Here's what I don't think happened. I don't think Tyler Robinson planned this whole thing in a week, was at all these different locations in this very tight timeline, stashed a gun, changed clothes, drove off, went to a parking lot, decided to hang out for a couple of minutes, wait for some random SUV to turn to the left, circle back around, turn behind him, drive off together, wait a couple of minutes, come back. I don't think that happened. Not if he's working alone.